Here's Brody Brazil.
So I am fresh back from spring training 2024. Like literally my plane from Arizona landed less than 2 hours ago, but I wanted to take this opportunity to address baseball's new jerseys, which were very much the center of conversation during the last week. But I wanted to do this because I was talking about this a few weeks ago, but now I got to have my hands on the jerseys, see them up close and personal, really understand what's going on here. And I wanted to give you 5 instant first impressions because most fans have not seen all of this in person yet. You're about to with spring training games, and maybe if these jerseys make it to the regular season, I don't know. But I've seen them, I've touched them, I've talked about them with people, so I really feel like right now I've got a pretty good grasp of what's going on, and I want to share these 5 first impressions. Obviously, before anything else, you can't miss the see-through pants. And seeing the tucked-in jersey is one thing. Seeing other things that maybe you weren't expecting is a totally different thing. I mean, look at some of the Yankees right there. Look at some of the Guardians right there. And wait a second. Switch gears for just a second. Look at the piping on the sleeves there of both of the Guardian players. Is that the same jersey? Because that's different piping. Piping is also an issue in terms of these new jerseys, which I'll talk about in a second. But the see-through pants. Now, MLB came out with this statement to Lindsay Adler of the Wall Street Journal saying the uniform pants have the same material and thickness as the uniform pants used last season. There were changes to the fabric of the jersey, not the pants. But you have to understand, I don't think we witnessed this problem before. So why is it cropping up now all of a sudden? Why is it so noticeable now? Now, it's always been that way that you could see a tucked-in jersey if a player had such tight pants that there just wasn't room to fit. But I don't think that's the case for all of these different players, that they're all choosing a pant style and a tailoring that is so tight that we're seeing through. I think we're seeing through almost every player pant that you can notice. I mean, find a picture of a player where you can't see their pants. Something is going on here, whether it's a minor detail or a miscommunication, and I don't know then why you'd have 2 different fabrics of a jersey and a different one for the pants. Shouldn't it all be literally uniform, top to bottom, the same material, the same fabric, top and bottom? I don't think they switched over to the pants different. And I'll also tell you that I think the pants have changed. Go ahead and take a look at a team like Atlanta. Their home white pants used to have a lot more detail around the belt loops, and now it's all been eliminated. So I'm pretty sure the pants in some way, shape, or form are different. Maybe it's a similar fabric that's being used, a similar material, but it's just a lot more translucent. It's more see-through. So, well, not even translucent, maybe transparent is the right word to use here. This is what everybody's talking about. This is what everybody's noticing, in addition to some of the other obvious stuff. But now that we've seen it on the players, they've gone through their media days, now they're out there on the field. How much of a problem is this going to be in the coming days and weeks, and what fans observe and talk about on social media? How fast can this be remedied? Because I would be shocked if the baseball season is well underway and the jersey pants are still this see-through. All right, let's move on. That was one first impression. Here's another one. I talked about the fabric, right? Now, the old jersey, the 2020 through 23 version made by Fanatics with the Nike branding on it, that's in green right there. That's the Kelly green of the Oakland A's. And again, you'll notice 1, there's a fabric right there. And 2, there's a different type of fabric for the sides and also kind of for the butt area. And it's where you tuck in the jersey in the back. That fabric to the right, the arrow to the right of your screen, that's the fabric that's supposed to breathe even more and allow air, hot air, and sweat, and the material's supposed to dry even quicker. So you would understand why the build of the old jersey seemed a little bit more complex, a little bit more tactical and strategic, and maybe higher value, because the new jerseys, like the Orioles one I've displayed in the bottom left, that's all one fabric, right? There's no 2 shades of fabric. There's no more breathable and versus more durable. It's all just one cut in the new jerseys. And a lot of people may take that the wrong way, like the new jerseys are less made, and maybe they are. But the point is here, the old jerseys just had more production to them. They were a little bit more technical in terms of their contouring and their build. And so I think that's why a lot of people have the impression that the new jerseys feel cheaper, because they're not a multitude of different fabrics that all come together strategically. Okay, let's talk about the sleeve piping. Now, this is also, I think, a big deal. Maybe it cuts down on just a little bit of weight. I certainly don't understand how it makes the jersey more breathable. The old jerseys used to have that piping, right? Like in this case with the A's Kelly Green, gold, white, gold. That piping used to be over, how should I do this here? It used to be over the sleeve, the edge of the sleeve, right? So the edge of the sleeve, the jersey would be here, and then the piping would go over it. It would be sewn onto it. But in this case, the sleeve piping is actually like attached even lower to the bottom of the jersey. And I can't explain it. Again, I'm not a tailor. I'm not a clothing manufacturer, but this right here feels a lot more like what you might wear on a youth basketball jersey, right? Where the piping is not sewn over the edge. The piping is the actual edge of the jersey. And that's noticeable. Again, you may not see it in pictures and photos. You may not understand it because, it's on the player. But if you get one of these, the authentic, is it called Nike Vapor Elite jersey, like the on-field authentic jersey, you will notice that the piping is just a whole lot different than it ever used to be. And it just looks less and feels less than what the old version used to be. Here's one that is definitely less than the old version, and that's just a patch on the shoulder of the Houston Astros. Now, the old patches were more like, actual patches with stitching, with embroidery. It had some detail, some depth to it. Like if you run your fingers across that old Houston Astros patch, or like I saw, for example, the crest on the Blue Jay on the front of Toronto's home jerseys, the maple leaf on it, if you rubbed your fingers on it, it would have some ridges and some depth to it because it was embroidered on there. Nowadays, I don't even know the manufacturing process of this, but if you rub your fingers on the Houston Astros patch, it's just flat. It looks a lot less. Now, if we're really into the design of this and we're trying to make the jersey more breathable, does the patch make it heavier? Does the patch make it harder to breathe through that one little, 2.5-inch diameter circle? Does that really have an effect? Or is that a cost-cutting maneuver in the manufacturing of these jerseys? So there's no patch textures anywhere you go. This is on the Astros jersey. This is on some of the other jerseys that I saw firsthand. It definitely, from afar, you may not notice it, but up close, I think you'll definitely notice it. And then I think, last but not least, is just the name size and curvature, like the proportion of Soler's name on the back. It should just be much bigger. It's only 5 letters and a single number 2, the name like the old Verlander on the left in the cream-colored Astros jersey. That's typically what you'd see on a player's back, right? The name going from shoulder blade to shoulder blade, kind of an arch, not necessarily like the whole rainbow type curve like it is on the right. The new one is on the right there in dark blue. And you can see how the name actually extends beyond the 3 and the 5. I mean, it's just no need for that. The MLB logo is a little bit farther down the neck. They've tried to, move that down closer. Look at Soler, for example. It just looks a little bit out of place. It's almost like the logo on the back of the fitted caps if it were way too high. In this case, that logo is just kind of way too low down the back. There's so much more real estate up there to put that logo. So again, it's not only the curve of the name, it's the font, not the font, but the size of the letters, it's just disproportionate to the actual numbers in a lot of cases for a lot of teams based on the length of the name. And it just, again, if we're evolving here and this is what the next generation looks like, I might understand. But then let's go back to the point of having a name on a jersey, a name and a number. Isn't it to identify a player from a distance? I'm going to have such an easier time reading Verlander in bold, as big as it is, on his back on the left, than seeing Soler from the same distance. It's just going to be harder to read. That typeface on a lot of major league jerseys, the size of it is so much smaller. All right, these are my takeaways. Again, I do applaud Nike and Fanatics if they really are trying to make a next generation jersey and they really do have the players in mind, then that's fine. But what is the balance here between lighter and more breathable and a quicker drying material? Because that's what they're aiming for here. What's the balance between all of that and something that just feels cheaper? Because you have to address both. It needs to perform like you want, and it also needs to have the look and feel of something that you've been doing for quite some time. I would also say, what's the idea of trying to do a 180 on so many different parts of the jersey? Maybe the better evolution here was just to do a few small things. Like if you told me everything else was the same and the patches were flat, well, the patches are flat. Or why are we seeing through the pants right now? There has to be something going on there that it's hard for all of us to diagnose. We're not experts in fabrics and stuff, but I do have last year's pants and I've put them on myself and I cannot really see my jersey or anything else when the jersey's tucked into the pants. So yeah, I also think the pants are like a problem, and we've all seen some of the famous photos and infamous photos out there in baseball, literally with the players union. I think they're well aware of this, that this is a problem. And my last point here is that it needs to get addressed, and I think it will. The perforated numbers, which I'll actually show you one more time. Here's a good part about this. I'll give you a bonus. If you look at like the back of Soler's jersey, you're going to see the number 2 with a bunch of little dots in it. And I also witnessed firsthand Oakland A's jerseys that had the numbers with kind of a perforated pattern on there to let air and sweat and heat breathe through there. That's typically an area of the jerseys where the numbers are, where you see a lot of sweat build up on a hot day, especially for a catcher. So I do appreciate something like that. Hey, that's a good part of this. Most everything else is not a good part of this. Again, the names look unusual. If I'm sitting here saying, well, that doesn't look right, and most people are saying that doesn't look right, the popular vote here is probably going to win. And I think players, you talk about somebody buying a jersey with a name on the back. How about the person whose actual name it is on the back of their jersey? They're proud of that. They don't want it to look cheapened or any less than it ever should be. And so lastly here, I think all of this needs to get addressed. Now, Nike and Fanatics have 3 different tiers of jerseys. I honestly couldn't care less about the middle tier or the bottom tier. People still want to buy those, and those are admittedly made less. That's fine. It's a cheaper cost, and that's what the target audience is there for. But in terms of the on-field authentic product, they have to get this right. This is going to be photographed. This is going to be part of baseball history starting in basically a month when the regular season begins. You cannot afford to get this wrong going into the season. And is there time to fix everybody's jerseys? I don't think so. I mean, this is going to be an effort just to get things remedied in time. And even if it's the first week or 2 of the season, fine, we'll take it. But this has to be fixed sooner than later before the season gets underway, at least on the authentic caliber of the jerseys for the players and how they'll be depicted, and eventually what they'll be selling in the team stores. It should be the identical jersey that players are wearing on the field. I know they've had some complaints. I know they've had some pretty strong comments. I know the Players Association is trying to work on this. I don't know if Nike and Fanatics even have the ability right now to pivot so quickly and either go back to what they were doing or remedy this for the long term. I mean, they're kind of in a tough spot right now, but you'd have to think that some kind of announcement or decision or direction will come soon. There's on Soler's jersey. Oh, it just may not show up as well here on your screen. Maybe I promised something and didn't deliver. But just go look at some other photos of the new jerseys up close with the numbers. All the numbers on the backs of the jerseys for every player has kind of that perforated look to it. And again, it's just not showing up here, the contrast, at least on this screen as I'm recording it. So those are my first impressions of baseball's new jerseys. Nice try, but feeling them up close and looking at them, they do feel different. And I can't entirely say that all in the most positive way. I think you're going to notice some things when you see this in person. We've been talking about it on videos here on the channel for a while, but I've now seen them in person on the players. The players have taken photos in them, and you're about to see them at the start of this season. And all those media days, by the way, that just happened around baseball, like where these pictures were taken, they're all in the new jerseys. So in some sense, there's like no going back. We've already dove into this, but there still is time to fix it, I think, before we get too deep into the baseball season. You've made it here to the end of the video. You know I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. And by the way, if you're just stopping by here for the first time, you've never seen me or this channel before, that's awesome. I'm glad you found me. Make sure you subscribe so I can definitely see you back here next time.